we're going to get started in a comfortable seat. That can be Virasana, this guy. I know we've covered this ground a few times when we open with our seats. Another really good option, I'll show it. This is a reminder. Dandasana. Just legs straight ahead. No fold, no cross. It's really easy on a lot of hips. Gets the spine in a good, comfortable shape. A simple cross-legged pose called Sukhasana. Always good option. I'm just personally kind of partial to this Virasana shape. Also called Zazen, this seat. Okay. Next order of business, we're going to do something specific with the hands. You can anchor them up on the heart. You can set them down on your thighs. Or you can build the little nest where your thumb tips touch and let that nest just relax in your lap. I'm kind of partial to that one. And that goes by the not so creative but very descriptive name of the gesture of meditation. Dhyana Mudra. Okay. And then please feel free to let your eyes close for a minute or two. There won't be a whole lot to see on the screen. And you know, I think most of us that are familiar with the yoga practice have probably found that as we adjust these volume knobs on our sensory doorways, kind of the biggest, strongest, most powerful one that's so easily adjusted, going from seeing the world out in front of you to just kind of seeing dark. Your capacity to see is still there. There's still a visual field, but obviously it's very, very different. And in doing that, you sort of turn up the volume almost automatically on the other sensory doorways. And likely there's something to smell around you. Of course, lots of things. That's not really what we're pursuing. Presumably most of us are not snacking during this time. So there's really not much to taste. So we've sort of whittled our sensory world down a little bit. And I think what a lot of us notice is the tactile sense of feeling, touch, haptic feedback. And our soundscape. Those two really open up. And so as we embark on our practice, I invite you to just take a moment and feel your seat well established. Feel pressure on the floor or on your cushion. the presence of clothes on your body and air against your skin. And then just take a brief amount of time and notice how your breath feels in your body. And as you're breathing, just see if you can coax the breath. It's this weird little borderline that we've all experienced as we practice yoga, but this place where 25,000 times a day we're breathing, most of those 25,000 are just run on autopilot, which is a great feature. I don't want to have to think about all 25,000 breaths every day. Too much to manage. However, the weird little feature, maybe built in so we could swim underwater for brief periods of time, I'm not sure. But this neat little feature where we can influence our breathing pattern. And essentially, with our mind, with a decision, with attention, with intention, breathe in a way that's just a little different. Now, obviously, we're not going to gain the lungs of a sperm whale while we sit and breathe, but can we coax the breath into getting a little wider? For sure. A little deeper. Absolutely. A little longer, a little slower. For sure. Incremental adjustments. Can we see to it that the breath is happening just through the nose? Easy, easy management there. Just softly closed mouth. Can we be present for some of these breaths and cover the breath with our awareness? Now that's obviously much harder. The breath is there, but our mind tends to wander. No problem. Absolutely not a problem at all. Just as you're able to, last minute here, coaxing the breath into moving deeply, fully, through the nose, filling the torso, particularly the back of the body. Being present for it. Last few rounds. So we're going to start to move just a little bit. This first one, something I teach a fair amount. We're going to just retract the head. But we're going to do it very specifically. So I know we're trying to avoid contact. So you can simulate this, or if you know you just washed your hand, everything's clean, you can just very gently touch your chin and just draw backward, straight back. And then release. So you want to try that about a dozen times. If you were sitting against the wall, it would just be the backward pull until your head were pushed against the wall, and then like to the point where you're even pulling back actively into the wall. Without a wall there, you just feel resistance. You're going backward until you meet a little resistance. You're welcome to do it without the hand. And just to clarify, everybody, we're not necessarily trying to extend upward. The eyes are basically still eye level. You just go backward, backward, backward. Last couple. Backward. Ooh. Okay. Then let's do a couple lateral flexes. So this is our ear to shoulder gesture. Now for the ear to shoulder gestures, you can let the arms stay forward. You can release them out and down, sort of like a little tripod almost. Oh, that adds a little more stretch. And if you wish, you can just kind of drop in one more little layer to this one, wherein as head drops to one side, you activate the opposite arm. So the head dropping right, you just like charge that left arm, like I'm trying to reach it into the edge of my mat. So last few, we're just doing lateral bend, sideways flexion, with any arm shape you want, with or without some charge in the opposite arm. Oh. And then as you're ready, everybody come on back to center. Next, twisting. So letting the head rotate like an owl peeking over your shoulder. Couple more. Ease on back to center as you're ready. And always feel free to switch the seat. So at any point, go to cross-legged, go to straight-legged, come into this guy if you haven't visited yet. Stay here if it feels good. Even go a asymmetrical one leg forward and then switch legs. All right, so next we're going to reach the arms out. Then let's let this right arm down here just relax. This is one we should be getting pretty familiar with at this point. So now we're going to do the lateral bend. Oh, but out toward this arm. The palm can even be faced up if you're holding something on your palm. We're going to let the head do a lateral bend the opposite direction, but fold the arm in, lift the elbow up. You can have the hand in a fist or whatever you want. And then just go back and forth. So you let the head release in the direction of the open palm, extended arm. And you let the head tilt sideways away from this arm that draws in and up. Let's try 3 more per side. Any configuration with your legs as you go through these. Really any configuration with your wrist during this phase. And then 1 more per move here. Last time to open toward the arm, and last time to tilt away. Oh, goodness. Let's switch sides. So for me, I was holding an asymmetrical leg position, so I'm going to switch that up. Just make sure you're in a comfortable leg position. So it's the lateral flexion of the head that we did all on its own, combined with this arm work. So palm up, head released in the direction of that outwardly extended arm. Probably right one for most of you. Ooh. And then head away as that arm draws up through the elbow primarily. And if your wrist feels like it gets in the way, you could hold your hand in a fist, although that's going to be a lot more stretch for your wrist. What's up, Elijah Henry? How's it going, dude? You good? Oh, goodness. Wasn't expecting the dog kiss there. All right, it happens. So just last couple goes, in and up. Oh, yeah, they both feel really, really good. They cook. And then out toward the open palm. In and up. As the head tilts away. Let's try 1 more per side. Once toward the open arm. And away from the folding arm. Whew, goodness. And then release that. All right, everybody. We're going to shift out of that seat. And we're going to make our way to all fours. All right. So, I know it was only a few minutes ago, so it's fresh in mind and fresh in body. But try the first exercise we began with in our session. Retract the head. So let's pull it directly backward when we were sitting. But in this position, it's pull the back of the head directly upward, like you're going to tack it up onto your ceiling. To deflect other movements, you might just pick a spot on the ground, just barely in front of your fingers, and your gaze stays consistent. But essentially your eyes are either 18 inches away from the floor, or 19, or 20, but with the same angle. Oh, last 6 or 8. So this is that same retracted head, but against gravity now. So in other words, we've got weight to lift. We had some here, but nothing, no real resistance. All fours, we've got a lot of resistance. Last 2. Last 1. Oh, goodness. So then you're going to peek over one shoulder, which is a little bit of that lateral bend. It might have some twist as well, so it might be a little combo. Then you're going to peek over the opposite shoulder. And And just a few times go side to side. So this one is a lot of movement in your head and your neck, but a little in the breastbone as well. I'm hardly moving my hips, but I'm moving most of the rest of the spine. Literally just like peeking to the back corner of the mat. Peeking toward the back corner of the mat. 2 more. Oh, yeah, that feels good. 1 more per set. Oh my God, that felt good. All right, next, let's sit in Vajrasana for just a moment. I'm sure this is a clarification you guys have heard a few times, but generally speaking, Vajrasana, V-A-J-R, we're sitting up on the heels. We've got the feet kind of like arranged like this, but we're right up on the heels, so there's pressure, sit bones on feet. Virasana, generally speaking, we've got feet apart and the butt's either sitting in between there or she's sitting up on a cushion, like the pose I started with tonight. All right, last couple breaths here. So you're going to put a little more pressure into the ankle stretch, because we're all in this pose presumably. And lift one knee just a little bit off the ground, which is going to ask a little more of the ankle. The knee angle basically stays the same. It's closed off right there. So this lift, whether it manifests or not, comes from the ankle mostly. And then just go side to side. Now you can see I posted up a little on my hands behind me, just to make it easier to regulate the balance. But if you don't need that, you can skip that and just lift the knee by itself. Couple goes. Okay. Next, this is tough if your floor is too hard. You're going to cross one foot. Then you're going to put the other foot on top. So you're neatly arranging, oh, goodness. You're neatly arranging the top of the arch where your shoelaces would be tied and setting it on the underside of the arch where the actual arch is. So most of you, I'm sure, have done this one. When we do the little tennis ball massage and we're stepping on the tennis ball with the foot, that's maybe like a 2 out of 10 pressure-wise. This one's probably like a 9.5. So it's intense. Okay. Before we all have to tap out, let's switch feet. So you've got the new presser, new pressee. And if it's mysteriously comfortable on this side, maybe that foot's just in a different, has a different tolerance level. But it might just be that you're not pressing in quite the same spot. Look around for it. Ooh, that's it. Couple big breaths here. Ay, ay, ay. All right. Last one before we transition into some different kind of work. We're going to come up to kneeling. We're going to tuck all 10 toes under. So you're standing tall on the toes. Before you sit back, right, before you go any further back, squeeze the heels together. So we've got the inner edges of the big toes basically together. The top of the feet, or, well, it's the top now. The heels squeeze together. Then maybe sit back See if you can go through 10 breaths here, just sitting on tuck toes. Trying to keep the heels fairly close together. It's not necessarily bailing, it's just deciding what's the appropriate amount of weight to absorb. You can come back to here and keep the tuck alive. Or you can sit all the way back. Last 3 or 4 breaths, some version of the toe tuck. Obviously bail if you need to. So then, to come out of the pose formally, back to the kneel, 1 foot forward, back to the toe tuck, step up. Nice hands-free way of getting off the ground. All right, y'all, we're up, we're standing. Here's what we're going to do. Come to a more narrow stance. My default is kind of wide, so maybe this was your default, but come to a fairly narrow stance. Lift up a leg. And then switch. So just try about a dozen times. So it's, a little walking in place movement, but kind of slowed down. It's a knee to the chest movement, but without any help from the arms. It's a maximum range of hip flexion movement, but we're stabilizing the opposite hip. We're working on balance, coordination, strength development, range of motion. Last couple. Okay. Next, I'm going to take the leg backward into again, not a very creative name, but it certainly describes the event. Butt kickers. This one's, feel free to go a little slower. Whew. If you can stay a little closer to centered, that's great. I can tell I'm shifting a little more on this exercise than on the first one. But that's okay. 5 or 6 more. All right. And then release that. Next, let's take the legs kind of wide. I'm going to step to one side and step to the other. So you've got some little moment. Really, you can decide how long, where you're pausing in the center. Squeeze, so the legs come into a midline. They expand from the midline. They squeeze in. Any amount of knee bend to just make this happen so it feels adept. Your steps can be small. Your steps can be big. Working that lateral capacity. moving sideways. Last one or two. Okay. When you come back to center, we're going to again keep that fairly narrow stance. Just barely lift up your left leg and externally rotate it. So let it turn out. But while it turns out, twist away from that seam. So chest and head go one direction. Leg at the hip joint goes the opposite direction. Now come back to center with hip and trunk. Then take this same lifted leg, heel on the ground if you need to give it a rest, and inwardly rotate it. Turn it that way. And twist, oh God, in the direction of the internally rotated leg. I'll repeat this a couple times because it's brand new, I think, for most of you. So external rotation, twist away. Internal rotation, twist toward. Oh, one more. External rotation, turn away. Internal rotation, turn toward. Oh my goodness, release that. That is so good. We only did that 3 times. That's redunk. All right, so on the new side, we're barely lifting a leg. We're putting some external rotation in the hip, so that femur bone comes up into the hip socket and you're turning out. And then you're letting your trunk, with any arm arrangement you want, twist the opposite direction. So hip one way, trunk the other way. As you come back, now we're neutral. Neutral hip, neutral trunk. Now we turn the hip in. I'm not very helpful to observe here because my hip barely turns in, and then twist in its direction. 2 more times. External rotation, which I have in abundance. Twist away. Internal rotation, which I personally have a deficit there, and twist toward. Last one. External, twist away. Oh my God. Internal, twist toward. And then release. Oh, that is good business. All right, it seems so simple. All right, I promise we're not going to be doing this the whole time, but particularly since that's a relatively new pattern, let's try it just one more time. Lift one leg, barely off the ground. Externally rotate, not only your foot, but your hip. Twist away. Internally rotate, not just your foot, but your hip. Twist toward. 3 times total. Away from the external, toward the internal, away from the external, toward the internal. Oh, goodness. Last one, away from the external, and toward the internal. And mercifully, let's release. It's such a little movement. All right. Last round, second side. Lifting. Dial out. Turn away from it. This is not just your head and your foot. This is your trunk and your hip socket. Hip socket goes the other way. Inward. Trunk goes the other way. In the direction of the lifted leg. It's 2 times through now. And then we're done. Away from external. Into internal. Away from external. And lastly, into the internal. Okay. And then release that. All right. Nice work, everybody. Next, we're going to take an arrangement like this. Let's have the left foot forward. Right foot backward. So you've got a nice upright, not upright this way, it's pitched a little forward. Look at the line of my back is pretty much like in line with my back leg. One clean diagonal. So you're looking for that. This front leg's got any degree of bend you want. The knee stays on top of the ankle. This back leg, we're going to straighten-ish. Little bend is okay. Here's what we're going to do, about 5 big breaths. Take that back leg and work the internal rotation. The same stuff you were just doing. So this back leg internally rotates. Takes the hip, internally turns it. As you do that, whatever arm matches this back leg, reach it along the ear. Keep the ribs pinched in, but a little arch in your back. 3 more breaths. Back leg internally rotated. 1 more big breath here. I'm going to release the arm. Step out with the leg. Ho, ho, ho. Switch sides. Okay. So for me, I now have the left leg backward, but obviously you just make sure you're switching. So what are we doing here? We're setting up a lunge. Are we perfectly vertical? No, we're kind of pitched, almost corresponding directly with the angle of the back leg. That front leg, didn't mention it last time, but technically it's got a little bit of the external rotation bias. Mainly the focus is on back leg, internal rotation while it's fresh in mind and body. Find the matching arm. Send it along the ear. Keep the ribs pinched, but a little tiny arch in your back. About 5 big breaths here. There's a whole lot going on, so absorb the whole movement, but just to make sure we're really connected to our sequence tonight, really feeling that internal rotation. Last couple big breaths here. Oh. To come out of it, you can relax the arm, step the back leg forward, and switch. Let's go back to side one more time. Okay. So what do we got going here? Lots of flex, bend in the front leg. Lots of extend, reach back in the back leg. Lots of internal rotation in the back leg. This time we're going to find the arm that matches the front leg, rest it on the tail. Find the arm that matches the back leg, send it along the ear. And see if you can just start to tip a little further forward. Maybe the back leg wants to float up, maybe she doesn't. Ooh. When you're ready to come out, release the arms, step the leg, Switch sides. Okay. Finding the front leg matching arm. Setting it on the tail. Finding the back leg matching arm. Setting it along the ear. And we're just testing the waters. What if we relied a little less on that back leg here? Well, we'll rely on it, but we don't have it quite as much grounded on the floor. Maybe she floats up for a second. To come out, relax the arms, step the leg. Last time. Last one. Back leg's got internal rotation. Let's keep the hands on the hips. And lift up the back leg. Now, how does that internal rotation manifest here? That hip turns down. It's internally rotated. Keeps the toes pointing down. Maybe arm forward. This is warrior 3. When you're ready, hands to the hips. Step back. Switch sides. So really putting all the steps together, right? Massive internal rotation. So the second that back leg comes flying off the ground, most of us tend to turn it out into external. So that's why we're really hammering this internal away. Hands stay on the hips for this one, so the launch is a little easier. It's as though my belly and the back thigh could all just lay out on a table. Oh. Step on out of there. Whew. We'll step up and out of the pose. Oh, goodness. Excellent work, you guys. So one last standing pose here. Take it in a different direction. 2 solid feet on the floor. Any version of Parsvita Padottanasana. So wide leg, forward bend. Let's go hands on hips as option. Hands on ankles as option. Hands on floor as option. Hands clasped. Oh, with the shoulder release as an option. Okay. From here, we're going to all take the hands on the floor. Get each hand under each shoulder, roughly. Reach one arm out and twist upward in that direction. And you can look down or sideways or up. And as you feel ready, switch hands. So new hand under its own shoulder and twist. From here, come back to center. Spin so you're facing one set of toes in the classic lunge shape, but now we're down low in our lunge. Spinning that back leg into inward rotation. Now we're going to open the arm that matches the front leg and twist. Ooh. Make your way back to Parsarita Padottanasana. One time lunging new side. So spin to the new side, fix those hips down, find the arm that matches the new bent leg, twist. And then lastly, everybody come on back to center. And make your way down into a squat. Malasana kind of squat. All the way down, feet as straight ahead as you can find. Mine have a little bias toward outward turn, but I'm working on putting a little less turn in the feet and trying to cultivate that turn more in the hips. There, it looks like I got a much better adjustment there. 1 minute here, 1 minute. You can have any arm shape you need to. You can post up. You can lean into a wall if you had it. You can hold on to a little ledge if you have one. You can set the elbows on the knees. You can just let the arms relax out. All right. Please touch down onto your bottom. Let's take both legs into like a straddle shape. And we'll start by posting up backward and just hinging a little. You've got the opportunity here to retract your head, stuff we started our practice with, even letting it extend a little. Feeling the shoulder blades can draw into your back, letting the shoulders drop back and down. Finding a nice pleasant arch through your back that feels good. Activating the legs so you push out through your heels, pull back a little through your toes. All right. From here, we're going to shift onto our backside. Oh. Once you're on your back, everybody, we're going to extend 2 legs straight up. Rest your arms along your side, lower than 9 and 3 o'clock, but kind of wide, and really straight. Now, with your straight arms, you want to actively press them into the floor, almost like you were trying to drive them down into the basement. While you do that, see if you can lift the legs. You're not trying to put pressure on your neck. Oh. To clarify, it should feel like your triceps work really hard, and it should feel like your abdominals are cooking to try to pump the legs up. So triceps are thrusting into the ground, abdominals are working. Just try a few more. Not shoulder stand. Oh, God. Finish that last one. Let's rest the feet. Let's take one ankle, cross it over so you're in some external rotation. Hug in. You can rock this a little side to side. So there's one leg that's on top, the crossed over one. We're going to twist in its direction until that knee comes down, opposite foot can touch down. Then we're going to twist the trunk away from the pile of legs. Oh my God. Oh. That's muy bueno. So we're going to ease back to our back, unwrap the legs, put the new leg on top like figure 4. I have the needle, pigeon pose. Hug that seam towards your chest so you get some response in your hip. Identify the leg that's on top. Twist in its direction so that knee's on the ground. Other foot will find the floor. And then your trunk twists away from the leg pile. So my legs have gone left, so I'm turning my trunk, arm, shoulder, upper back, ribs to the right. Oh my God, that feels good. When you've had enough of the twist, let your trunk kind of go with your leg and bring everybody back together. Lastly, take 2 straight legs up, 2 arms up, shake it out. Shake out the hands, shake out the arms. All right. And then everybody, you don't have to rock up, but you can get whatever you need for Shavasana. So if you prefer to come up and grab a blanket or put your calves on a chair, or satiate your thirst. Whew. So corpse pose, everybody. Shavasana. Oh, goodness. We hit a lot of ground tonight, starting up at the head and the neck and working through all those shoulder and neck exercises and a little bit into the wrists and whew, all that work in the hips and down into the feet and the toes. All that balancing work. It's a lot to process. And I know at some point these metaphors always lose their oomph, but there's certainly a way in which we can very easily see corpse a little bit like, sleep. At the end of a busy full day, we need that time to kind of unconsciously process it all and to rest and to restore and to renew. So in a 60-minute yoga class, 6 minutes a corpse is only obviously 1/10 of the time, and sleeping's 1/3 of the time. So the analogy is not great, but it's close. So avail yourself of this time. Let it be nice and comfortable. Feel free to process a couple of slow, deep, purposeful breaths. until at some point you relinquish any top-down control over the breathing. And you notice it, you feel it, it's in your conscious field, but just like the wind in the air. You're not trying to control it. You might notice it. It might be in your field of awareness. But we're not trying to execute any top-down control. And the revolutionary part of relinquishing this top-down control, albeit in a very safe, controlled environment, is most of us, after the period of Shavasana is over, find it very satisfying. And it's a way to orient to kind of a different part of yourself, maybe one wider, more inclusive. More spacious. Shavasana. Dasya Padena Visham Malam Shirasya Savadyakena Yopa Karutam Pravunam Muninam Tatanjalim Pranjalir Anatosmi Abahu Parushakaram Shankachikrasidarenam Sahasara Shirisham Svetam Pranamami Patanjalim Hare Om Hare reconnect to all the sounds. And reconnect to the sensation of breathing. And whenever you feel ready, just we'll come full circle tonight and make our way back to a comfortable seat. It could be a cross-legged, straight ahead, virasana. And let's close with another mudra. You can do the classic Namaste mudra. It's technically called Anjali Mudra, named partially after Patanjali. Anyway, so. And as we wrap up here, just encourage you to begin again with that breath awareness practice. So for 1 minute, feel the texture of full, deep, comfortable, easeful breaths, particularly filling the back of the lungs. And then just in closing, everybody, you can send out a little private thanks over the airwaves to everybody else who's joining the Sangha, the group. And you can just maybe send some positive energy out as wide as you can spread it. All right, everybody. Namaste.